All right, let's dive right in, shall we? We've got a fascinating topic today, AI and language learning.
Really fascinating.
Specifically, we're going to be looking at how these tools are changing how we learn languages like Spanish.
Hmm.
You sent in a recording of a Spanish class
Right.
that uses AI, and it's really got me thinking.
It is so interesting to
Yeah,
see how the instructor is kind of weaving these tools into a pretty standard class format. Like,
right.
you've got your grammar, you
Yeah.
have your exercises, you have your Q&A,
Mhm.
but the AI just adds this whole other dimension to it.
It really does. And one of the things that struck me was in the recording,
Yeah.
instead of the instructor saying,
Yeah.
hey, go look up these proverbs,
Yeah.
the AI was actually generating
Yeah.
unique examples of proverbs for each student,
Exact.
even translating them on the fly.
It's incredible.
It's really like having a personal assistant
Yeah.
for language learning, which is kind of what the instructor was saying. But
Yeah.
what that made me think about was
Yeah.
the accessibility aspect that
Absolutely.
these tools bring.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah,
Before, if you wanted that level of personalized feedback,
right.
or you wanted to explore all these different resources,
Hmm.
you'd need a private tutor.
Yeah,
And that's a luxury most people can't afford.
exactly.
So this technology really has the potential to level the playing field.
I think so too. And, it's not even just about access to information. It's
Right.
about engagement too.
Absolutely.
Even I got caught up in the class discussion
Uh-huh.
about summarizing WhatsApp chats using AI,
Oh, I love that example.
like making language learning feel more relevant
It
to
is.
everyday life.
Yeah, it's practical.
Yeah.
It's applicable. You're not just memorizing,
Right.
verb conjugations in a vacuum.
Exactly.
You're seeing how language is used
Right.
in real world contexts.
Yes. And that can be so motivating.
Abs-
And speaking of the real world, the instructor talked about using AI to create custom content, like
Yes.
recipes,
Uh-huh.
trip itineraries,
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of things.
Yeah, anything you can imagine.
You name it. Even generating images.
Right.
Remember that part where they were talking about creating pictures
I
based
know.
on impossible scenarios?
It blew my mind.
It blew my mind too. It's like
Hmm.
bringing abstract concepts to life
Yeah,
in a way that traditional textbooks just can't.
it's incredible.
It really is, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
The instructor did point out some limitations as well.
Absolutely. And it is important for anyone using these tools to understand that
Yeah, I agree.
they're not perfect.
Right. And the instructor's anecdotes about the AI being occasionally lazy
Yes.
or needing a little bit of nudging
Right.
to give a more in-depth response, I thought that was really interesting.
It is interesting.
And I think it really highlights the need for critical thinking
Absolutely.
when we use these tools.
It's not about just blindly trusting
Yeah.
everything the AI spits out.
Right. It's not about replacing human intelligence.
No.
It's about partnering with it.
Exactly.
Right. Like, remember the flan conundrum
Oh, yes.
where AI came up with a recipe for flan,
Yeah.
but it was missing like a key ingredient?
Right. And that shows how these models are trained.
Yeah.
They're only as good as the data they're fed.
Right.
So it's crucial to double check information,
Yeah.
especially for anything with real world consequences,
Yeah.
like a recipe involving raw eggs.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, don't believe everything you read online.
Right.
But now we have to add, don't believe everything an AI tells you.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a new level of information literacy we need to develop.
Yeah. And speaking of new levels,
Yes.
the instructor brought up two specific AI tools,
Yeah.
Gemini and ChatGPT.
Right. Those are the big ones everyone's talking about.
Yeah. And I was hoping we could dig into that a bit more because it seems like everybody's talking about them.
They are.
But I'm still not clear on
Yeah.
what the key differences are.
Okay.
Like what
Yeah.
makes one better suited for certain tasks
Right.
than the other.
Well, both Gemini, developed by Google, and ChatGPT, created by OpenAI,
Uh-huh.
are powerful tools,
Yes.
but they have different strengths.
Yeah.
Well, think of them as having different specialties
Okay. I like that.
within the AI world.
Yeah.
So Gemini is particularly impressive when it comes to what we call multimodal interaction.
Okay.
So it's designed to handle text, voice, and images
Uh-huh.
seamlessly, all together.
Okay.
So for example, you could describe a picture
Right.
and have Gemini generate a caption,
Wow.
or ask it to create an image based on a voice command.
That's really cool.
It's all about breaking down the barriers
Yeah.
between different forms of communication.
So if I'm trying to learn vocabulary in Spanish,
Right.
could I ask Gemini to show me images
You could.
related to the words? That would be pretty cool.
It's a great way to make learning more interactive
Yeah.
and engaging.
Yeah.
Now, ChatGPT, on the other hand,
Yeah.
really shines when it comes to text-based tasks.
Okay.
So it excels at holding extended conversations,
Right.
generating different creative text formats like
Okay.
poems, code, scripts, musical pieces, email, letters, etc.,
Wow.
and even answering your questions in an informative way, even if they are open-ended, challenging, or strange.
That's pretty impressive.
It is.
It's interesting that the instructor mentioned using both
Yeah.
Gemini and ChatGPT in the class.
Uh-huh.
Is that common for language learners?
It is becoming more common,
Okay.
and for good reason.
So I'm starting to see how they could complement each other.
They do. You might use Gemini to get a visual representation of a new word,
Right.
and then use ChatGPT to practice writing a story using that word.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's all about leveraging the strengths of each tool
Yeah.
to create a more holistic learning experience.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
I think so.
But before we get too carried away with all the amazing things these tools can do,
Right.
let's go back to something the instructor touched on,
Yeah.
which is security and privacy.
Yes, that's a crucial consideration.
He seemed pretty cautious about uploading personal information
He's right to be cautious.
to free AI tools.
These are powerful technologies.
Yeah.
And it's important to be mindful of the data we're sharing.
Right.
So free AI tools often collect data from users
Mm-hmm.
to help train their models.
Right.
And while this can be beneficial for improving the technology,
Yeah.
it also raises concerns about how that data is being used and protected.
So what can listeners do to protect themselves?
Well, for starters, always be aware of the terms and conditions
Okay.
of any AI tool you're using.
Right.
Understand what data they collect,
Uh-huh.
how they use it,
Right.
and whether they share it with third parties.
Okay.
If you're uncomfortable with the level of data collection, consider using a paid version of the tool,
Uh-huh.
which often comes with stronger privacy protections.
That's a good point. Sometimes it's worth picking for peace of mind,
I think so.
especially when it comes to personal information.
Absolutely. And always be wary of scams or phishing attempts.
Right.
Make sure you're using legitimate apps and websites.
Yeah.
And avoid clicking on suspicious links
Okay.
or sharing personal information through unsecured channels.
Those are all great tips.
They're just basic precautions, but important ones.
It sounds like the key is to be informed
It is.
and proactive
Yes,
about protecting your data.
absolutely. Knowledge is power.
Right.
The more you understand about how these technologies work
Yeah.
and the potential risks involved,
Mm-hmm.
the better equipped you'll be to use them safely and responsibly.
That's a great point to end on for this part of our deep dive.
Indeed.
We've covered a lot of ground already,
I think so.
but there's still much more to explore.
Oh, yes.
So
Yeah.
let's take a quick break
Sounds.
and then come back and talk about the future of AI in language learning
I can't wait.
and beyond.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. You know, it's fascinating to think about
Yeah.
how these security concerns are kind of intertwined
Mhm.
with the evolution of AI
Right.
as these tools become more sophisticated and
Yeah.
more integrated into our lives.
Right.
The stakes just get higher.
They do. It's like
Yeah.
we're entering this uncharted territory
Yeah.
and we're having to constantly reassess
Yeah.
our relationship with technology
Uh-huh.
and how to use it safely.
Right. How to harness its power
Yeah.
without compromising our values.
Exactly.
It's a balancing act,
Yeah.
and one that we're all kind of figuring out together
Yeah. In real time.
in real time. But speaking of balancing,
Yeah.
I think it's worth circling back
Okay.
to the idea of multimodal learning
Yes.
that we touched on earlier.
I was really intrigued by that.
You know, your instructor mentioned it briefly, and I think it deserves a little more attention.
Okay. Yeah. Can you explain what multimodal learning is
Sure.
and why it's so important?
So multimodal learning essentially means engaging with information
Right?
through multiple senses,
Ah.
sight, sound, touch, even smell and taste when applicable.
Wow. Okay.
So instead of just reading text on a page,
Right?
imagine watching a video,
Uh-huh.
listening to audio,
Right.
interacting with a simulation,
Okay.
or even using virtual reality
Yeah.
to immerse yourself in a different environment.
Okay.
All of these experiences contribute to a deeper
Yeah.
and more holistic understanding
That makes sense.
of the subject matter.
Especially for language learning,
Absolutely.
where so much of it is about mimicking sounds
It is.
and getting a feel for the rhythm and intonation.
Exactly.
It's not just about the words on the page.
It's not. And AI is opening up
Yeah.
a whole new world of possibilities for multimodal learning.
Okay.
So think about being able to practice your Spanish conversation skills
With an AI-powered chatbot
Right.
that can not only understand your words,
Wow.
but also analyze your facial expressions
Oh, wow.
and body language
Okay.
to give you feedback on your
Yeah.
pronunciation and fluency.
That would be amazing.
Would be like having a personal language coach
Yeah.
available 24/7.
Do you think those kinds of AI-powered tools
Yeah.
will eventually replace human language teachers?
That's a question a lot of people are asking,
Yeah.
and it's an important one to consider.
Yeah.
While AI can certainly enhance the learning experience in many ways,
Uh-huh.
I don't believe it will ever fully replace
Okay.
the human element in education.
Right.
There's something about the connection and rapport you build with a real teacher,
Right.
the ability to ask nuanced questions
Yeah.
and get personalized feedback.
Uh-huh.
That goes beyond what an algorithm can provide.
I agree. There's a certain magic in that human connection that's hard to replicate
It is.
with technology, no matter how advanced it becomes.
Exactly.
And let's not forget the importance of cultural immersion.
Right.
Learning a language is about more
Mhm.
than just mastering grammar and vocabulary.
Right.
It's about understanding the culture,
Yes.
the history,
Yeah,
the people behind the language.
it's true.
And that's something that can be best achieved
Yeah.
through human interaction and real-world experiences.
That's a really important point. You can learn all the words,
You can.
but if you don't understand the cultural context,
Right.
you're really only getting half the picture.
Exactly. And this is where AI can actually play a complementary role.
Okay.
So imagine using an AI-powered language learning app
Uh-huh.
to practice your conversation skills.
Okay.
And then taking what you've learned
Yeah.
and applying it in a real-world conversation
Fun
with
idea.
a native speaker.
That's a great idea.
It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, it's all about finding the right balance
It is.
between technology and human interaction
Absolutely.
to create the most effective learning experience.
I think so.
But while we're on the topic of the future of language learning, I
Yeah.
have to ask, what are your thoughts
Sure.
on the potential impact of AI on translation?
Oh.
Will we ever reach a point
Yeah.
where we don't need human translators anymore?
That's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
And one that has no easy answer.
Right.
AI-powered translation tools
Uh-huh.
have come a long way in recent years, and they're getting better all the time.
Yeah.
But just like with language learning,
Right.
I think human translators
Yeah.
will always have a role to play,
I agree.
especially when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
nuanced and culturally sensitive translations.
Can you give me an example?
Sure, think about translating a poem
Okay.
or a piece of literature. There's
Wow.
so much more to it than
Yeah.
just conveying the literal meaning of the words.
Right.
You need to capture the tone,
Yeah.
the rhythm, the imagery, the emotional impact of the original text.
Right.
That requires a deep understanding of both languages and cultures,
It does.
as well as a certain level of artistry and creativity.
I see your point.
Yeah,
It's like translating a joke.
it is.
Sometimes the humor gets lost in translation
Exactly.
if you don't understand the cultural context.
Right, and there are other challenges as well.
Okay.
Think about legal or medical translations where accuracy and precision are paramount
Right.
in these situations.
Yeah.
Even a small error in translation
Yeah.
could have serious consequences.
Yeah, that's true.
Human translators bring a level of expertise
Right.
and accountability that's essential
Yeah.
in these high-stakes scenarios.
So it sounds like while AI can be a valuable tool
It can.
for translation,
Yeah.
it's not a replacement for human expertise.
Duh.
It's more about collaboration
It is.
and finding that right balance again
Right.
between technology and human skill.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And I think this applies to many areas
Uh-huh.
where AI is making its mark.
Right.
It's not about machines replacing humans.
Right.
It's about humans and machines working together
Yeah.
to achieve greater things than either could alone.
I love that perspective.
I do too.
It's not AI versus humans.
Right.
It's AI and humans
It's a partnership.
as a team.
Exactly. And that brings us back
Okay.
to the core of what we've been discussing.
Yeah.
The responsible and ethical use of AI.
Right.
It's up to us as humans
No.
to guide the development and implementation of these technologies
Yeah.
in a way that benefits all of humanity.
And that guidance includes being mindful of the potential downsides,
It does.
right? Like we talk about security and privacy, but there are other ethical considerations as well.
Absolutely. We need to be thinking about issues like bias in algorithms,
Okay.
the potential for job displacement,
Right.
and the impact of AI on our social interactions and relationships. These are complex issues
Yeah, they are.
that require careful consideration
Okay.
and thoughtful solutions.
It's almost like we need to develop a whole new set of ethical guidelines
You're right.
for the age of AI.
We need to be having these conversations now
Yeah.
before these technologies become so deeply ingrained in our lives
Yeah.
that it's too late to course correct.
Well, on that note,
Yes.
I think it's a good time to move on
Okay.
to the final part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
We've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
but there's still so much more to explore.
There is.
I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on what the future holds for AI and language learning
Okay.
and how we can all prepare for this brave new world. You know, it feels like we've only just scratched the surface
Yeah.
of this whole AI thing.
Yeah.
It's exciting,
It
a
is.
little intimidating,
Yeah, a little bit.
and definitely makes you think about the future.
It really does. And you know what struck me throughout our conversation? And especially listening to that Spanish class recording,
Mm-hmm.
is how much the focus has shifted from passive learning
Okay.
to active creation.
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So traditionally, language learning was often about
Yeah.
memorizing vocabulary lists,
Right.
conjugating verbs, translating text. It was very structured
Yeah.
and rule-based.
Okay.
But with these AI tools,
Yeah.
learners are empowered to generate their own content,
Right.
experiment with different language styles, and even create art and music
Wow.
in the language they're learning.
So it's less about absorbing information and
Yeah.
more about using language
It is.
as a tool for self-expression
Exactly.
and creative exploration.
Exactly. And that shift is incredibly exciting
It is.
because it makes learning more engaging, more
Yeah.
personalized,
Oh, yeah.
and relevant to learners' individual interests and goals.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to the instructor's example
Yeah.
of using AI to create a travel itinerary.
Yeah.
It's not just about learning the words for hotel and airplane.
Right.
It's about using those words to plan a dream trip,
Exactly.
to imagine yourself in that environment,
Yeah.
to connect with the culture on a deeper level.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah?
It's about making learning come alive.
Yeah.
Going beyond the textbook.
Right.
And engaging with language in a way that's meaningful and memorable.
Okay, so let's fast forward a bit.
All right.
What does this all mean for the future of language learning?
Well, I think one of the most exciting trends is the increasing personalization
Okay.
of the learning experience.
Right.
AI is allowing us to tailor learning to
Yeah.
individual needs, preferences, and goals
Yeah.
in ways that were never before possible.
That's fantastic.
So whether you're a visual learner,
Right.
an auditory learner,
Uh-huh.
or a kinesthetic learner,
Yeah.
there's an AI-powered tool out there
Right.
that can help you learn in the way that's most effective for you.
It's about moving away from those cookie-cutter approaches
It is.
and recognizing that everyone learns differently.
Absolutely. And another trend I'm seeing
Yeah.
is the increasing gamification of language learning.
Okay.
So AI is being used to create
Uh-huh.
engaging and interactive games
Right.
that make learning fun and addictive.
I love that.
So think about language learning apps
Yeah.
that use AI to create personalized challenges,
Right.
track your progress,
Uh-huh.
and even reward you for your achievements.
It's like turning language learning into a game,
It is.
which can be so motivating,
Absolutely.
especially for younger learners.
Especially for younger learners.
Yeah.
And speaking of younger learners,
Yeah.
I think it's important to acknowledge the role that AI will play in education more broadly, from personalized tutoring
Yeah.
to automated grading.
Mm-hmm.
AI has the potential to transform
It does.
the way we teach and learn at all levels.
It's almost hard to fathom the possibilities.
It is.
It feels like we're on the cusp
I think we are.
of a major paradigm shift in education.
I agree, and it's important that we approach this shift
Yeah.
thoughtfully and responsibly,
Right.
ensuring that AI is used to enhance and complement human intelligence,
Right?
not replace it.
I couldn't agree more.
Good.
So for our listener out there,
Yeah.
who's eager to dive into this world of
Yeah.
AI and language learning,
Right.
what's your parting advice?
I would say, first and foremost, embrace curiosity.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to experiment
Yeah.
with different AI-powered tools and resources.
Right.
There are so many amazing apps, websites, and platforms out there,
There are.
many of them free or low cost.
That's great.
Find what works best for you,
Yeah.
what sparks your interest, and what helps you make meaningful progress
Right.
in your language learning journey.
That's great advice.
Don't be intimidated. Just dive in and explore.
Yeah, and I would add, don't forget the human element.
Yes, absolutely.
Connect with other language learners.
Right.
Find a language partner.
Yeah.
Or even consider taking a class with a real teacher.
That's a great idea.
It's all about finding that balance
It is.
between technology and human connection.
I agree.
And remember, language learning is a journey,
It is.
not a destination.
That's right.
Enjoy the process, celebrate your successes,
Yeah,
and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
that's part of it.
It's all part of the learning experience.
Absolutely.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive.
It has.
I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too.
Not just about AI and language learning,
Yeah,
but also about the future of education
right.
and the importance of staying curious and adaptable
It is important.
in this ever-changing world.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure exploring these topics with you.
Likewise.
And to our listener, we hope this deep dive has inspired you
Yeah,
to explore the world of AI and language learning.
I hope so.
The future is full of exciting possibilities, and we can't wait to see what you create.
Me too.
Until next time.
Bye.